willkommen bei deinem Studio. Heute bin ich auf der Studioszene und da will ich heute mal ein paar Impressionen vorführen und hoffe, dass euch das gefallen wird.
Herzlich willkommen zum Motu AVB und Digital Performer Workshop. Mein Name ist Michael Voss, bin von der Firma Klemmmusik. Könnt euch reinkommen. Und mache seit mittlerweile 26 Jahren Motu-Support, mache Vorführungen, mache die Reparaturen von den Geräten. Also Motu und ich, wir haben quasi eine Liebesbeziehung, kann man sagen. Und ich nutze Motu nicht nur beruflich, sondern auch als DJ. Mache meine Remixes mit Digital Performer. Ich habe 2 Rockbands, da machen wir natürlich Live-Recordings auch in Digital Performer und Intros und solche Sachen. Also ich mache eigentlich sehr viel mit Digital Performer. Wir nutzen uns mal, ne? Wir sind ja Musiker. Ne? Was ihr gerade seht, ist so ein kleines Filmchen über ganz viele Künstler, die Digital Performer und Motu-Hardware live auf der Bühne benutzen. Das ist eigentlich ein Nebeneffekt von Digital Performer. Eigentlich ist es ja eine DAW, so genauso ein Produktionsprogramm wie Logic oder Cubase oder Pro Tools, hat aber wirklich ganz entscheidende Funktionen und gerade für den Live-Bereich, und das will ich gerne heute mal zeigen. Ich habe so eine kleine Keynote mitgebracht und die mache ich jetzt hier und dann erzähle ich nachher was über das Motu Show-Control-System.
What's up? So, ich begrüße euch nochmal, die neu dazugekommenen bei der Studioszene 2019. Ich mache den Witz nochmal, in 100 Jahren haben wir 100 Jahre Studioszene. Also bleibt dabei, ich freue mich, dass ihr da seid. Wir sind bei unserem zweiten Panel und ich möchte gleich unsere wirklich beeindruckenden Meinungsgeber vorstellen. Ich möchte aber jetzt kurz dazu sagen, wir machen es auf Deutsch in der Hauptsache. Wir haben einen Dänen dabei, der dann auf Englisch antworten wird. Und wenn ihr was nicht versteht, wenn ich verwirrte Blicke sehe, versuche ich auf Deutsch zu übersetzen. Und andersrum, if I sound like a horse, you just make me understand just that. Ahead of you, just there. There you go. Ich fange hier außen an. Er wohnt nicht in Köln, in Overath, das ist Nils Dreier von Dreier Audio. Heute ist sein Hauptbusiness, Geräte zu warten und zu restaurieren. Hat angefangen, allerdings als Toningenieur, klassisch, Studioszene hier in Köln, wer es nicht mehr kennt, für die Jüngeren. Vielleicht das Kölner Studio, der eins zumindest, ne? Also in der Zeit, als es noch in der Stadt von der größten Köln 3, 4 große Studios gab, was das. Hat sich zum Assistenten in Innsbruck gearbeitet, später bei einer Firma gearbeitet namens MTK Thomas Müller, wo er Studios geplant und installiert hat, ist also von der Nutzerseite auf die Macherseite übergewechselt und hat dann für mich sehr interessant bei der Firma Solitude Audio, die ist leider nicht mehr gut, richtig? Ja. Röhrengeräte entwickelt, und zwar reine Röhrengeräte, unter anderem ein Pult mit wie viel Röhren? Macht ihr alles an? Okay, alles gut, wir lesen was.
50 Kanäle und Funktionsumfang von normalen 4000 SSL. Ja, pro Kanal 26.
Wow, 26 Röhren mal 6 Röhren. Ausgezeichnet. Ich weiß gar nicht, dass es so viele Röhren gibt auf der Welt tatsächlich. Ist das wahr? Nee. Aber es gibt ja so Sachen. Wenn wir Storys erzählen über Tonband. Ja, eben. Also es gab Gründe, ich glaube hauptsächlich tatsächlich finanziell, warum es nicht allzu oft verkauft wurde, weil es nicht verstanden wurde. Es gab nur diesen einen Grundstück. Wir haben ein bisschen länger gebraucht, weil es auf neue.
Hier war es auch noch
He has 17 Grammys to his name. 1.5. I make it 1.7. It sounds much better. Now 50 Grammys, wonderful, which is 50 more than I have. And you are, even though you started as all-round engineer, you're mostly a mixing engineer right now at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't happen deliberately, but it just seemed like the business shifted in the late 80s,
Right.
and I just started getting calls for mixing. And then the amount of live tracking really decreased. And then with bands in the studio making records decreased, so I got more calls for mixing as people made more records at home, more records synthesized and sequenced.
Do you produce as well, Nick?
No. I mean, I have co-produced a couple of things, but I like the path of least resistance.
I think that's one thing I can say in advance, is you sleep substantially better when you're an engineer and not a producer, because you're fulfilling the will of the artist and the producer rather than having to be responsible for the idea itself, which makes for a pretty heavy sleep as well, as in disturbed sleep as far as I know. I'm moving on to Mr. Peter Walsh, who is a producer and engineer.
Still.
Yes. How would you weigh your producer engineering?
Well, I do both at the same time. So.
Okay, but you don't do any engineering exclusive?
Yeah, I do a little bit of mixing for where there's not a production role included, but it usually turns into making decisions, production decisions. So. But it's kind of, I came into the business through the engineering recording side rather than I'm not a musician or anything, so the two kind of work together.
Okay. Well, Peter is a producer and engineer who started in the late 70s as a staff engineer at Utopia Studios in London. Where was it? Where was Utopia?
Utopia was in North London, Camden Town.
And he has left his mark on the pop music, rock music world with I hope I don't treat you wrongly with it, but in the independent world, more or less. There are times in the pop world where pop, as in everybody listens to it, an independent, fewer people but more interesting music, maybe we could say that, converge more. And the early 80s was one of those times, and Peter was very active in that area with Pierre Gabriel, Heaven 17, which is, you probably don't know them, but for me that's a game changer, because I was 13 at the time or something. Also with Pulp, The Church, and since this is really relevant to today's topic, divas of all kinds, for example, Ute Lemper comes to mind. So, and people like Scott Walker, people who don't know him, huge influence on people like Radiohead and others. Amazing operatic rocker, if you would put it. Maybe that's a good way to put it, I'm not sure. We can talk about that later with lots of beer. So, the youngest in the round, Monsieur Philippe Weiss, is that the way to pronounce it, or is Weiss?
Yes, no, Weiss.
Weiss. You're a mixer exclusively, is that right?
Yes.
Philippe? Have you ever produced or...
Never produced, recorded, I should say a little bit, but mostly mixing.
Philippe started as well as a mixer or as an assistant in a studio in Paris called Davout.
Yes, correct.
Did you start as an entry-level assistant, or did you?
Absolutely, entry-level assistant in 95.
Okay.
And started mixing in 96.
Okay.
And since then,
You've never stopped, have you now?
never stopped.
He mixes now in his own Red studio in Paris, or with Malaco in London. And Red Studio the name is program, it's very red. Is that your favorite color then? Is that your choice? Very good. And he's mixed with just an amazing amount of, mainly I would say, funky people, funky dancey, poppy people.
Like that, yeah.
Yes. Martin Solveig, Wycliffe Jean, CeeLo Green.
Studioszene, and to the Cordial Cable booth here, and we're going to talk about cables, we're going to talk about everything and anything, and I invite you to ask questions if you have any questions for me about anything really, but at the end of our discussion today, we have some posters. Can I hold a poster?
Yes. So we have a special surprise for the people who will ask Sylvia some questions. So this means everybody who is asking the questions will get a t-shirt or one of those posters, which are originally drawn by Sylvia, and she will originally sign it. So this is really something special for everybody who is daring to ask a question. First of all, we're doing a short interview, and Sylvia will tell a little bit about herself. So, yeah. Okay, let's begin. So, we're very happy to have Sylvia here at our booth. It is a big pleasure for us. Not only because you're a famous producer, but also because we know you being a very grounded, very down-to-earth and very nice human being, like your husband and manager Chris also, and that you're really a music lover, and that everything that you're doing is because you're loving music from your heart and from the beginning of your career. And so this, I think, would be very interesting for us and for the people here listening. How did you start really in the beginning with not only listening to music, but also trying to make more of it, trying to produce it? So.
Well, I think that there are three types of producers. There's three types of production styles. There is the engineer type of producer, and that's where I came from. I started in broadcast production, and I learned how to use audio equipment while I was making radio commercials, basically, and while I was an online personality, or not online, but on-air personality on radio. So I learned how to use microphones and recording equipment there. So I started as an engineer, and then I used studio equipment for production. And that's one type of producer, but there's other types of producers too. There's the musician type of producer, and they write the music, they create the music beds for other artists to sing their songs on, or they write the song and create the music, and then they sing. Like Pharrell Williams, for instance, is a musician type of producer. And then there's the fan type of producer, and you were talking a little bit about that. Rick Rubin is a fan producer. He's not necessarily a technician or a musician, but he knows a good song when he hears it, and he'll tell the artist to write 50 to 100 to 200 to 300 songs before they start a project, so he can pick the best material, because he knows what, he recognizes a good song, and that's where he starts. I think that all of us, when we're producing, have a little bit of these, all three different kinds of producers. So I'm also a fan. I still love what I do, but I love the equipment that I use because it's so much a part of my style, my engineering style of production. And the equipment that I use, I consider that my set of paintbrushes when I'm painting a painting. I want to use this wide brush here, and I want to use a narrow brush here. Oh good, they're done over there. Anyway, that's how I started. I basically started in broadcast engineering and then moved into music engineering. But I still love the broadcast equipment, and I've found a way to cross the broadcast compression and EQ and bring that into the studio for music recording.
Okay, and as you mentioned Rick Rubin, so when you stopped, or when the next step after your broadcast in engineering, was then Rick Rubin the next step? And did you meet him, or was there something in between? So how did this happen?
That's a good question. It was one of the earliest music productions that I did was with a band called the Sea Hags, and that was in San Francisco, and I worked at a little studio there. They were there was an LA producer who was very interested in this band, the Sea Hags, and that was Rick Rubin. And when I went to LA, I was working at a studio called Larrabee Sound, and Rick came in to work on a project. I think it was Danzig at the time, and I was the assistant. Anyway, he and I talked a lot about the Sea Hags because I had worked with them, and so he started giving me projects to work on, and so I did some work on the Black Crowes and Danzig, and then went on to work with him on and off for about 7 years on different projects. We did Johnny Cash with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and we did System of a Down, and we did Donovan Leitch, and a bunch of some big things, some small things. We worked on Smashing Pumpkins together, and that was a very interesting session because we did a microphone shootout in the studio to listen to different microphones with Billy Corgan's voice, and the winner, even though we had Telefunken Elam 251, we had a U47, we had 414s, we had C12s, we had everything, and then we had one of these 58 SM58. Is this a Beta 58? The 58 won. He sang a verse on each mic, but this was the winner, and we did all his vocals with this Billy Corgan with Rick. Yeah.
So what we learned is that you're always taking a big eye on the gear that you are using, and what we also recognized mainly in the States, it's not a natural matter that you really take care of cables. So when did it start when you thought, okay, also cables matter, and how did this happen, and how did you develop in this point?
Well, I find that microphones are very important. Let's say, even if it's a 58, if your microphone is, the sound of your microphone is compromised by the cable that you're using, and it changes the sound, then you've lessened the value of your microphone. You could have the most expensive microphone, and if you have a poor cable, then you also have a poor microphone. And that's really where it starts. But then also, when you're monitoring, if your monitors, and this is exactly what you use to make judgments about your recording and your mixing. If your monitors, if you're using a poor speaker cable for monitoring, you're compromised on all your mixes, and you really don't know what you're hearing. So I think that cabling, as well as mic preamplifiers, could be the most important thing in your audio chain.
Okay, yeah, we see the same. And how did you then come to Cordial? How did this happen?
Well, Cordial, there's something special about this type of cable. It's because it is a high copper. It's oxygen-free copper, so it's virgin copper for one. So it's not recycled copper, and it's also oxygen-free. So that means that the signal and the electrons have a pure, clear path to move in either direction, and it's not compromised by oxidation. And because the more the cable is exposed, the more that the metal is exposed to air, to oxygen, the more it becomes corroded. And the more corroded, it loses its conductivity. And that's really what it's about, is if you have a clear path, then it always will be a better sound, a more full frequency sound. It won't change the sound, it'll give you what your intention is.
Yes. And so one of the projects that you're doing at the moment is to completely build a new studio, or you rebuild your own studio, and you do the complete wiring. So can you tell a little bit about studio wiring and studio building?
So now I have one studio with a vintage Neve 8038 custom console, which I'm so spoiled. It has 34 1073 modules, and it's just, you know, it's unbelievable. You just plug something in, it sounds great. But mixing is a whole other thing. Mixing now, I am building from scratch a mix studio, and I have monitors by Genelec. I've got 1038A monitors, these big monitors that are softeted in the wall. They're built into the wall. As well, I have the 8351A monitors for near field. And and then I also have the Dangerous Music mix mastering complete system, which is just a game changer as far as mixing goes. Anyway, I've got this fantastic equipment, right? Great monitors, great mix system, top of the line computers, and now am I going to put it all together with cheap cable? You know, that's just the thing that may be the most important thing now at this point, because I have the important parts of the studio to put together, but I want to put them together with something that will not interfere with what I'm trying to do. And I don't want to have to think about it either. I don't want to have to wonder if what I'm listening to on my monitors is truly accurate. And so far, when I use the cordial cables, the results are fantastic. So I can highly recommend them, not only for mixing, but then there's other things too. And if I could grab one of these cables, this instrument cable here. This is a cordial instrument cable. This is what do you call this type of?
Well, we call it the metal cable because it looks like not only it has not only the copper inside, it also looks like copper. So, and we just say, okay, copper and metal, this fits.
The thing about this particular cable, though, is it's a silent cable. So it has, see, this thing is so handy in the studio because you're plugging, you're unplugging, you're plugging, you're unplugging, and every time, you know, if you're not careful, you're going to put a pop in the speakers, and this prevents that because it automatically turns off when you unplug it. So it prevents a lot of hard use of your speakers and your woofers. And so I love this in the studio. It's great. There's a bunch of other cables too. You know what? One of my favorite new well, this is a D-sub connector, and this is as much copper as you can get in a D-sub connector is in these cables right here. So, and I know that in the mix room that this is pretty much standard. Everybody needs this. So that is going to be the best sound possible. Also, and I don't know much about this. This is from one unit to the other. This is for digital, right? So this is a different type of cable, but it's for digital, digital only. It's not for analog. And they make everything that you might need. You know what I love is the Xeon. And I'm going to pull one of these here. Xeon, this is a new product from Cordial. It's for DJs. All the colors, they're Xeon, they're not neon, they're Xeon because it's Cordial neon. But they're bright colors. This stuff glows when you're in a DJ situation in a club. And that way you can see where you're going with your ins and outs, even if you're in the dark. I love that. These are RCA to quarter-inch jack, and then there's also RCA to RCA. There's regular quarter-inch to quarter-inch. They're all stereo plugs made specifically for stereo turntables or CD players or any other kind of laptop situation that you would have in a club. So I think that's really, really smart. And they also have Ethernet cables. The blue one right there, the Xeon, is also something that would work in a club because of the color. Anyway, I'm a fan. I love these cables. I think it's a great company, and I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah. we are also really glad that you are here, and thanks for answering the questions and telling a little about your experiences. And I think now we could just give the people here a chance to ask some questions and let Sylvia answer the questions. And we have a special feature and a special gift for the people who ask questions, because Sylvia is not only a music producer, she's also drawing herself. And we have some special drawings that Sylvia just made for this reason here and for this trade show. And we have printed them on t-shirts, and everyone who is asking a question can get a t-shirt. And on the other hand,
oh yeah, we got more posters too. Right.
we also have these posters.
Yeah.
And this is the other gift that people can get.
Yes.
Originally signed by Sylvia.
I would
here.
love to give
they
you a
ask
poster.
questions.
But first we have to have some questions. Does anyone have a question?